16 lanes make a sound like slow thunder, and starting Monday, that thunder answers to you. The paperwork is on your kitchen table, and the plan feels simple. Open the doors, switch on the machines, and charge America by the game to knock things down. Except this purchase comes wrapped in a contradiction. At the end of the 1970s, close to 9.8 million Americans bowled in organized leagues, in a country that at its mid-60s peak had supported roughly 12,000 bowling centers. The most recent count from the United States Bowling Congress puts league bowlers at barely more than 1 million, with somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 centers still standing. 89% of the sport's core customers, gone. And yet the largest owner of bowling alleys in the country now runs more than 350 locations, books over $1 billion a year, and industry trackers keep filing the category under growth. The sport collapsed, and the business attached to it somehow got healthier. By the time this breakdown ends, that contradiction will make perfect sense, and 3 other things will too. You will know what a bowling alley actually sells, because it has not truly sold bowling in decades. You will know what the person holding the keys honestly keeps in a year, and you will know how the most famous investment bank on Wall Street came to own 500 of these buildings and rode them all the way into bankruptcy court. Main Street keeps 2 sets of books, the ones in the window and the ones in the office. Subscribe, and the office copies keep showing up here, one business at a time. First, the price of the keys. Almost nobody builds a bowling alley from scratch anymore, and the construction quotes explain why. Industry cost guides put a turnkey new build at $80,000 to $150,000 per lane, once the building, the lanes, and the machines are counted. A modest 16-lane house prices out well past $1 million before the first pizza is sold. So the real market is used buildings. Brokers price existing centers the way they price most small businesses, at roughly 3 to 5 times annual owner earnings, which in practice means anywhere from the mid-6 figures for a tired small-town house to several million for a modernized center with a bar and an events calendar. Then look at the far end of each lane, where the surprise lives. Behind the pins stands a machine, 1 per lane, and in older houses those machines run on freefall designs dating back more than half a century. Replacement freefall pinsetters cost around $15,000 to $25,000 per lane, while the newer string-style machines, where each pin hangs from a cord, run roughly $8,000 to $12,000. Those strings matter more than they sound. In August of 2023, the United States Bowling Congress began certifying string pinsetters for league play, and equipment guides estimate they cut yearly maintenance from $1,500 or more per lane down to around $500, because they replace a room full of moving parts with a knot. 16 lanes means 16 machines, and either a mechanic on payroll or a manager with a toolbox. The listing says real estate. The maintenance log says machine shop. The broker's one-pager stays quiet about 3 more line items. The building itself is the first. A bowling center is a single-purpose box covering tens of thousands of square feet, heated, cooled, and insured through every open hour, and facility costs typically absorb 40 to 50% of a center's operating budget, by the trade's own planning guides. The second is the floor under the thunder. Lanes need oiling on a schedule and resurfacing on a calendar. Machines eat parts, and maintenance budgets at a full-size house run $2,500 to $7,000 a month. The third is people. Staffing takes another 20 to 30% of the operating budget, and the bar that makes the real money needs licensed, insured, grown-up hands. And the largest hidden cost appears on no monthly statement at all: the shape of the building itself. It will be waiting for you near the end of this video. So where does the money actually come from? Start with what it cannot come from. A game of bowling sells for $4 to $8 across most of the country. Shoe rental adds $3 to $6, and by the hour a lane rents for roughly $25 to $60. There is an old trick from the razor aisle. Sell the handle at cost and make the fortune on the blades, forever. A bowling alley is that trick stretched across an entire city block. The lanes are the handle. The kitchen and the bar are the blades. The industry's own numbers confess it. Bowling itself brings in only 40 to 50% of a typical center's revenue. Food and drink bring 30 to 40%, and arcades, parties, and events cover the rest. But revenue is not the story. Margin is. Trade benchmarks put gross margins on food and beverage at 60 to 80%, and on alcohol, the drink in the glass typically costs the house 18 to 24 cents on the dollar, before any labor or overhead. Now watch one lane on a Friday night. 4 friends book it for 2 hours at say $40 an hour, and rent 4 pairs of shoes. call it $100, and that 100 is mostly spoken for paying the mortgage, the machine behind the pins, and the teenager spraying the shoes. Then the same 4 order 2 pitchers, a pizza, and a basket of wings, roughly $80 more. And after the kitchen takes its cut, somewhere around 50 to 60 of those dollars are gross profit, before the building takes its share. That is the reframe, said plainly. A bowling alley is a bar and restaurant where the lanes exist to manufacture seated, hungry customers, 2 hours at a time. The pins pull the crowd. The pitcher pays the owner. The professionals push this one step further, because not every customer is worth the same. At the industry's biggest operator, corporate events and private parties account for an estimated 15 to 20% of revenue, and an event guest spends double or triple what a walk-in spends, because the company card is open and the catering was sold in advance. The leagues play a quieter role than the nostalgia suggests. A league is a standing order, dozens of bowlers, the same night every week, 30 weeks or more a season, filling lanes on the quiet weeknights that would otherwise earn nothing. Leagues once generated about 70% of a center's business. Today the published estimates land between a quarter and 40%, but the base load they provide is the difference between a dark Tuesday and a covered one. R&L, and the ceiling on all of this was demonstrated in Manhattan. In 1997, a business school graduate named Tom Shannon bought a crumbling 1930s bowling alley near Union Square for about $2 million. And instead of fixing the sport, he repriced the night out. Blacklight lanes, video walls, cocktails, real food. Within 2 years, trade reports ranked Bowlmore Lanes as the highest-grossing bowling center in the United States. The whole machine fits in one sentence: hours, times heads, times what every head eats and drinks, times the nights, the leagues, and the party. Calendar guarantee. He did not buy lanes. He bought Friday night in Manhattan. So why do owners still go broke in a building engineered for margin? Because the fixed costs never sleep. The facility and the payroll claim their share before food stock, liquor, insurance, marketing, and those hungry machines line up for the rest. When everything clears, published benchmarks put net margins for a typical center at 5 to 15% of revenue, with the best-run entertainment houses pushing toward 20. Both of those numbers are true at once. The beer runs at close to 80% gross. The business, after every bill, runs at 10. A house ringing up $1 million a year at those net margins hands its owner $50,000 to $150,000, and that is the whole year. The bar prints money upstairs, and the building spends it downstairs. Time to cash the promise about Wall Street, because the 2 classic ways to die in this business were both demonstrated at full scale. Mistake 1 is believing scale can outrun a shrinking sport. In 1996, Goldman Sachs led the buyout of AMF, the most famous name in bowling. And between 1996 and 1998, the company bought roughly 260 additional bowling centers for close to $500 million. The league bowlers kept leaving anyway. By 2000, AMF carried more than $1 billion in debt and had been delisted, and in July of 2001 it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy while operating 518 centers, with about $1.3 billion in liabilities. In 2012, the reorganized company filed for Chapter 11 again. Wall Street bought the decline at full price and financed it with borrowed money. Debt turns a slow decline into a fast ending. Mistake 2 sits on the other side of the deed, buying the business and ignoring the dirt. A bowling center is a windowless special-purpose box on a large commercial lot, which is a curse if you rent it, because you are paying big box rent against a shrinking sport, and your landlord holds your ending. But owned, that same lot becomes a parachute. Whitestone Lanes, a 48-lane house in Queens, New York, stopped being a bowling business and traded in 2026 for $45 million to developers planning more than 400 apartments, and a shuttered Phoenix Alley brought $3.5 million purely for its site. When the lanes stop paying, the land starts. Widen the frame, 50 years worth, and the contradiction from the top of this video resolves itself. A Harvard political scientist famously titled his book about American disconnection Bowling Alone, because the dying leagues were his best evidence that people had stopped joining things. The leagues never came back, but every center that closed sent its remaining bowlers somewhere, and the survivors converted them from members into guests. Fewer buildings splitting a market that industry trackers now size around $5 billion a year. Think of the last diner in a town that used to feed 5 of them. It does not need the town to eat more breakfast. It only needed to be the one still open. Even the names have stopped pretending. The company that owns more bowling centers than anyone on earth renamed itself at the end of 2024, and the new name does not contain the word bowling. Lucky Strike Entertainment. The leagues died as a membership and were reborn as a market.
So what are you actually clear if you buy the Thunder? Picture two houses in the same town, because the trade really does call a center a house. House 1 is the legacy build, 16 lanes, free-fall machines from another century, a snack counter, league nights, and revenue between the high six figures and $1 million. At 5 to 15% net, House 1 pays its owner roughly $40,000 to $150,000 a year, plus a
working education in pinsetter repair, and every one of those figures is a published benchmark, not a promise. House 2 is the conversion, the same box with certified string machines, a real kitchen, a liquor license, laneside service, and a party calendar sold out months ahead. The mix tilts toward food, drink, and events. The margin pushes toward the high teens, and a house grossing $1.5 to $2 million at 15 to 20% net puts roughly $200,000 to $400,000 a year in its owner's pocket, with planning guides expecting positive cash flow inside 1.5 to 3 years. Same address, same lanes, same Thunder. The difference is which business the owner believes they are in. As for who actually gets rich, it is whoever stops counting lanes and starts counting buildings. Shannon's $2 million Manhattan Alley became the seed that bought AMF out of bankruptcy in 2013, took 85 centers off Brunswick's hands the year after, added Bowl America's 17 houses for around $44 million, and grew into today's 350-location giant, averaging roughly $3 million of revenue per building. The margins never changed. The number of buildings did. One alley is a night job with Thunder in it. 350 alleys is what Wall Street calls entertainment, so bring it home as a rule. The pins pull the crowd and the pitcher pays the owner. Debt turns a slow decline into a fast ending, and when the lanes stop paying, the land starts. 9.8 million league bowlers shrank to 1 million, and the buildings that survived them earn more than the sport ever did. Never price a bowling alley as a sport. Price it as a bar with a light show, standing on land with a future. Which business should go under the microscope next? Nominate it below, then tap subscribe, because these books never stay closed for long.